Are you at page 56 yet?
No, page 54.
Oh, man. Tell you what, you're in for a treat. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Clang, the podcast. I'm Smiley. I am indeed the author of said book, of said podcast. And I'd like to introduce you to my man here. He's my yin to my yang. He's my Ernie to my Eric. He's my Ronnie to my Ronnie. He's my Deck to my Ant. Indeed, he's my Phil Foden to my Erling Haaland. He is obviously my wingman. And would you welcome, please, Mr. Pete Roythorne.
Can I put
Now,
the book
Pete.
down now? Can I put the book down now?
Yes, you can
I
put it down.
Okay, all right. Well, good evening, Smiley. It's so good to be here. I would say off the back of that, though, probably due to the hair colour, I'm probably more your KDB to your Haaland.
Well, I don't know why I'm using the Man City reference, but
because they're the best team in the world, mate.
Well, yeah. Also, I can't find a decent Chelsea. I can't find more than one good player. So that link.
Well, you could have said. I could have been your Cole Palmer to your Raheem Sterling, but then we're back on the City connection.
No, as you just proved my point. My Cole Palmer too, and there isn't a backup to that. Anyway, I am actually I know you as Pete, but I am actually willing to stretch you to Peter if it gives you more kudos.
No, the only person that ever calls me Peter is my mum when I'm in trouble. So let's steer away from that one. There's too many bad childhood memories attached to that, I think.
Okay. And why don't you tell our viewers, both of them, how did we meet? How are we still friends after all these years?
Probably because we didn't see each other for 20 years.
Good point. Good point.
Probably had something to do with it. No, we met thanks to the infamous Duncan Francis Mullet.
Yes, indeed.
In a band called Hip Jam in about 1994.
Wow, was it that long ago?
It was that long ago. It was great. That was, it was like, I still to this day reckon that I was physically scarred by standing in front of your snare drum. It's kind of like, I've heard you play on stuff and I've thought, shit, I remember that snare drum sound anyway. You have a very I think you have a very distinctive way of hitting a snare drum. But yeah, so we did that. And then obviously, I left Hip Jam for various reasons, which we won't go into probably in the podcast because we might get sued. Okay. And yeah, I think you went on for a bit longer, and then you pissed off to join Robbie Williams, didn't you? While the rest of us,
or as it's known, Chapter 11. Yeah.
Well, in fact, I'm very disappointed that I don't have a chapter in this.
Well,
I will. I think I will have it if you do a Clang 2. Maybe that'll be a different thing.
Yeah, Clang 2. It's been mentioned quite a lot actually, and funny enough, only recently that I suddenly thought it's been 2-3 years or something, and actually there has been some cool stuff in the last 3 years, and also there's stuff I didn't say in the first one. So you never know. I've got 2 American tours coming up. They are long days. That's when you start writing. So
well, we do have. Yeah, I mean, we had our reunion, should we say, at the beginning of it was just before COVID. And we started writing together, and I'm very proud of the fact that I have subsequently co-written 4 songs across a couple of albums. Of yours.
You have.
I do feel quite kind of gifted.
Well, I'm pleased about that because really, you could have been quite annoyed with me because the basic story is that we wrote about 2 albums worth of stuff under the name of Memphis Stone and the Elevators.
And then I
nicked it. No, true. There was on my last 2 albums, there were like 2 gaps on each, and I was thinking, I can't really think of any more songs. Oh, I know, I'll plunder the old Memphis ones. I wonder if Pete will mind. And you were gracious enough to let me put them on. So thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Well, it was close. It's the first time, but I think that was actually the first time I was on vinyl. But anyway, listen, we're digressing from the real reason that we're here.
Yes.
And the real reason that we are here is to do Clang the podcast.
Yeah.
So I think the important thing at this point is for you to explain to our listener
It's gone down to one already.
Well, it has. Well, let's set the bar
We
low.
started
set
high,
the bar
we
low.
fell low. Yeah. Okay.
So I think I'm going to defer to you really to sort of like, why are we doing this? What is this about? The world and his wife's doing podcasts at the moment. Why are we doing a podcast?
Well, it's a good point actually. I don't really know, but it's a great idea. Well, once we discussed this the other day out of the blue, I think what happens, dear viewers, and I've gone confidently back to viewers, plural. What happens is Pete has whims. Pete classically has whims, and I'll be doing something in the day, and it will suddenly swamp me with messages going, I think we should write a novel. What? I think we should write a novel together.
We should write a novel.
Yes,
we
I know
should definitely write a novel. We've
Yeah.
got at least 3 on the back burner. But anyway,
Right.
yeah, go on.
And then like I think we should do another album. Okay. I think then we should write for other people. And this is Pete all over. And then you said about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think we should do a podcast. And I went, podcast, schmodcast. I only listen to one podcast, and that's Johnny Vaughan, because I absolutely adore Johnny Vaughan with Gav and Sunta on Radio X, which actually I'm hoping to get Gav on this podcast. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there.
Don't give away the guests.
No, I know, but
the first rule of podcasting is don't give away the guests.
He's on my wish list, and I reckon if I tag him enough in this via Twitter, I might just reel him in. Anyway, so again, I poo-pooed it a little bit, and then suddenly I thought, do you know what? It would be a really cool thing, because we have actually got a lot of good friends who we could bring on. Basically, the idea is I think we're going to get a guest a week, aren't we?
That's the plan.
And between us, we know some really funky people. And then your next suggestion was that we based it around Clang. Now, just to explain to you novices out there who haven't actually bought this masterpiece, Clang is a book I wrote about 3 years ago, because a couple of people said to me, you should write a book. And I thought, why would I write a book? You know what I mean? I haven't got enough stories. But then someone said, you must have a great insight from what you've done. So my premise of it, rather than me going, and then I met Sting, that people would get bored of that after 20 minutes. My way of looking at it was, I was lucky enough to be in quite famous places, playing behind quite famous people, i.e. in the next dressing room to extremely famous people. So I could tell the story of what was going on in the next dressing room. You see, it was a bit like a musical gossip monger. And once I started with that idea, very much tongue in cheek, very much self-deprecating, like there isn't one bit in this book that goes, aren't I great? It's because I am surrounded by people who will royally go, no, you're not. All right. So my feet are firmly on the ground, because I've had some highs and lows and played with so many diverse people, but I've seen some amazing things, and I've met some amazing people. And let's face it, everybody loves a bit of celebrity, right? The world thrives on celebrity stories. Everybody, and I mean everybody's met someone. Everybody.
But just to address, so basically what you're saying is that Clang is essentially a bunch of gratuitous name drops.
Yeah, massively. That's what Clang is. My dear friend Alan Thompson, who is sadly not with us anymore, but he was a huge influence on me. It was a radio DJ, and he came up with the term Clang, because when I used to tell stories to Al, he used to love it, and every time I said a famous name, he'd say Clang, and and that was where. So the title was like a bit of a kind of homage to him, and but then as soon as I got that idea, I just thought, there's ways of telling stories, right? There's 2 ways that you can tell the story that people will probably listen to because it's laced with showbiz, right? Everybody loves a showbiz story. Or you do it and you brag, right? Now I'm a bit rubbish at blagging. I'm rubbish at 2 things, blagging and lying. I can't do either wrong, rubbish. So I just decided to tell it what it was like from a kind of fanboy in the next dressing room going, oh my God, you'll never guess who's next door. Realizing much of the time in the bands I was with, just going, I don't care. And I did. And so I wanted to kind of share it with people in a kind of non-egotistical way, more of a kind of, I'm a bigger fanboy as you are, and I'm lucky enough to be in this next room or this festival backstage or whatever. So that's where Clang came from. And then I pretty much wrote it on tour because I had a lot of downtime in America. And how I did it, I kind of mapped out every year of my life on this big piece of paper, and then tried to recall the pivotal moments of things that have gone on in those years, right? Even going back to, my childhood. What I didn't want to do is write that book. You know, when you read a book, an autobiography, and it starts on, when I was 5, I got a bike, and you've got to then trawl through another 4 chapters before they actually do something interesting. And I didn't want to do that. So I kind of dipped in and out of the early bits, and, then dipped back in, but got to the kind of juicy bits quite soon.
Well, that's what I have to say. I mean, that's one of the things I quite liked about it, because it's very easy. It's an easy read. It's an easy read. And also, I mean, I have to say that I'm always hugely impressed by your stories. And I always laugh at your jokes, and I'm always hugely impressed by your stories, which I think probably has a considerable bearing on why I'm sitting opposite you at the moment. Because possibly.
Mate, I've always thought you just humoured me, if I'm honest. You have said a couple of times. You have said the greatest line you said to me once was, "I live precariously by your stories."
Well, I do, and it's kind of like, but I'm always
everybody needs a muse, man.
I love it. It's like, I just like, it's just when you're off on, it's like when you were off on tour with Richard Archer, in the Offworld. That's right, doing the Offworld stuff, and you were sort of like, I think you were supporting the Specials.
We were supporting the Specials.
I just get this message from you going like, "Here, Pete, guess what? Oh, what now?" He said, "Terry Hall just knew who I was." And I'm going like, oh, fucking hell, that's cool.
Well, the thing is, you see, I also have this amazing talent, which is called embellishment, right? Which
lying, basically.
No, it's not lying. My rules of embellishment are, if there's an ounce of truth in it, you can embellish it, right? You can stretch it, right? Amazingly. So my Terry Hall story goes back to about 15 years ago. We did a TV show in France with Archive, and Terry Hall was on the show and agreed that he would front Archive. We did Gangsters, right? Amazing.
So
and
cool.
And I just thought that was really cool. And then 15 years later, I was backstage at this show when we supported the Specials, and he came round the corner and he was stood there, and I thought, oh, this could be embarrassing, because if he doesn't know who I am. And I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I just went up, I went, "Hi, Terry." And I used the infamous, "You won't remember me." And he went, "I remember you." I said, "You're the drummer with Archive." All right. And I just went, "Yes, I am." All right. Now, it could have been better. He could have knew my name. But listen, listen, there's always better and there's always worse. First clang of the day is Terry Hall. Well, how cool is that?
First clang of the day is Terry Hall. And I will, at some point over the course of the duration of our podcast, I will find a clang sound effect. However, it might start to get really annoying after a couple of weeks. So we might just have to get it out of the way in one particular episode. But so that brings us sort of like, I suppose, conveniently segues us nicely into the next bit, which is really, so we've got these guests coming on, and we'll kind of allude to where I don't want you giving away who these guests are.
I can hint.
You might there is, apart from there's possibly the one and only who you can hint at.
I wonder if they'll guess who that
possibly
is.
Because I think so you have to set your stall out somewhere, don't you? But I think so I mean basically we're going to have these guests, and the premise is that they're going to come on and they're going to have their own personal little kind of Clang book, aren't they?
Well, we're going to hit them with the Clang questionnaire, aren't we? We're going to hit.
We will.
We've got these kind of 10 for these first 10 shows. We've got 10 really diverse, famous or semi-famous or notorious, however you want to call them.
Well, some of them are actually quite seriously famous, aren't they?
Yeah, really famous, famous.
Exactly.
And they've all got an element of fame. And this is the thing: is there a fameometer, right? Because so if there was a fameometer, so you see say there was like 5 lines like a graph, right? So see that bottom one there? That's me, right there, right? Just on the corner, right? And there's
don't do yourself an injustice.
And there's Chesney right at the top there, right? So we're gauging between me and Ches, right, for this fameometer, right? But some who might not be as big a household name will probably have the better stories, I would have thought. So,
I would imagine they probably will. Yeah, but I mean, we've got for example, we've got a couple of singers.
I've got the list in front of me. So we have got a couple of singers. We've got, in my opinion, the best voice in this country, and I'm not going to tell you any more. But that, for me personally, someone who I've worked with, we have a former TV. Saturday morning television presenter.
Yeah.
How we got him, I don't know. But he is one of my favourite humans, and he will talk forever. And he's probably got some fantastic plays. In fact, he's got one I know he can't share on air, but I'll tell you off air. We've got a famous sportsman who has captained his country.
We have.
Yeah, we've got that. We've got a incredibly famous voiceover artist who she was the voice for a very famous film star.
This I was quite impressed. This person.
But then you say that, then one that you came up with, I think blows them all out of the water.
Oh, yeah.
Who is an actor?
Yeah, comedian.
And when you told me that he played a really famous dad in a TV comedy, that you blew my mind. Like, I cannot wait. And I told my daughter that, and that's the first time I know. She went, "Wow!" I haven't had a wow off her.
Do you know how I met him?
How?
Walking my dog in the park.
Really? Dogging?
Yeah. I'll tell you,
not George Michael.
Oh my God! I'd sort of listeners. Yes, I was not dogging. I was walking my dog. That isn't a euphemism. I was genuinely walking my dog.
Did you say to him, "You're so and so"? Or did you
no, I didn't know. Because I was just chatting to him, and I went, "Oh, have you been in anything I'd know?" And he went, "I've been in this and this," and I was like, "Oh,
yes, it is you, isn't it?" As soon as you told me.
I'm crap. I don't reckon. You send me pictures when you're off on tour. I don't bloody recognise anyone. I went, "Who's that then?"
Well, do you know what I love? I love, as much as them being kind of famous for what they do, but I love the fact that we've got people coming on who've all got stories. Right? We've got a drummer, a bass player, and a guitarist, right? Who randomly picks a certain guitarist, a certain bass player, and a certain drummer. Right? And I'm not going to say they are. But they are laden with stories. When you ask them about like their best clang, they're gonna just wipe the floor with everyone else. So they're definitely kind of up there with everybody else. So it's a brilliant eclectic mix. And I have had a thumbs up from all 10, right? So whether we can pull it off or not. So this is kind of the first show. Obviously, we did have, I can say his name. I'm allowed to in this one, but obviously we did have Chesney Hawkes lined up today. However, he rang me last night and he's actually had to suddenly go gold mining in Rhodesia for the foreseeable.
Really?
So he won't be available.
That's really odd because I'd not have had Chesney Hawkes down for a gold miner. Well,
he's a man
maybe a
of
gold
many
digger.
talents. He's a man of many talents. You thought he had the one and only, but let me tell you, man,
Yeah,
he is a
yeah,
talented boy.
yeah.
So maybe next week, who knows?
Maybe next week. Well, we can keep our fingers crossed
We can.
and maybe expect a series of kind of dodgy excuses coming out of
But
Chesney.
however, there will be a guest per episode for the next upcoming 10 episodes of Clang the Podcast. And so we shall be asking these very famous people, semi-famous, some of them, not so famous others, but all fabulous, a series of 3 questions. Pete, would you like to
well,
tell them
I'll
what the
elaborate.
questions would be?
Well,
Elaborate, Pete.
I mean, I think we should sort of like start by just starting as we need to go on, and let's ask each other. So,
Go on then.
first question is, what's your best clang?
Oh man, my best clang. Oh man, I've got a few. They're all in the book. I think it changes. I think I'll tell you mine, and it's a bit random, right? But in Friends, the famous Friends scene, the dance off, the routine between Monica and Ross in the club, right? Did you know that the music as they're walking into the club is a cover version of I Wouldn't Normally Do This Kind of Thing by the Pet Shop Boys, done by Robbie Williams, and I played drums on that. So I'm in an episode
You've
of Friends.
been on Friends. Oh, I didn't know that one.
Get in.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's not in the book, is it?
It probably isn't because there's so many other great showbiz stories. I don't know if it is or not, but it's facts. It was on the other day actually, and my wife and my daughter were sitting next to me, and I went, "Oh wow, listen to that drumming," and they didn't bite, and I thought, "Come on," and I was like, "I wonder who that is. Maybe it's someone in this room," and they basically just both looked at me and just, "Oh, shut up." You know what I mean? Name dropper.
You see, that listener is exactly why he sends me his kind of famous interactions, because that's the reaction he gets from his family. But he knows if he sends them to me, I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool.
We're so grounded. I used to use like the Robbie card was the ultimate. If in doubt, whip Rob out. And then,
of course.
Until I think that kind of the generational gap hit the other day when I think I said something to my daughter who's 14, Robbie Williams, and she went, "Who's Robbie Williams?" And I thought, oh my God, finally the card goes back in. I've got to find somebody.
Next, you're going to tell me that you said to her, "Oh, Joe Strummer," and she goes, "Who's Joe Strummer?"
Oh, she won't know who Joe Strummer is. I think the one she knew.
That's the point.
The biggest one I had for her was that I played with Sia once, and she knew that, and she thought that was really cool. And I think she actually told her friends that one. But the rest of it, she just couldn't give a flying, So it's a generation thing, Pete. It's a generation thing. That's why I speak to you more than her.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So that's what I'm going for. So what can I ask you what your biggest clang would be?
I mean, apart from obviously being on this with you, it's kind of
aim higher, Pete. Aim
higher. I have most of mine are awkward moments where I've drunkenly stumbled into people. Awkward or really bizarre. I have a Julia Sawala story, but it probably shouldn't be aired live.
Was it alcohol based?
No. Some other form of noxious intake.
Okay. Moving on swiftly, viewers.
I suppose the one that always really amuses me is another mutual friend of ours, Andy, who was also in Hip Jam. When I first moved down to London and I was in those bands, there was Andy got in with Richard Thomas, who was the guy who wrote Jerry Springer the Opera.
Oh yeah.
He wrote the music, and Stu Lee did the words. So obviously, being in with that lot, we knew all the Avalon crowd. So at that stage, that was Richard Thomas, Stu Lee, Al Murray, a whole bunch, Simon Munnery, a whole bunch of other people who were just kind of starting out.
Wow.
And now, I mean, Stu Lee is kind of a big name to kind of.
You're the only person I've heard ever call him Stu, by the way. Stuart Lee.
Oh, really?
Everybody knows him.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, Stu Lee, I call him Stu. My mate's Stu. I. So it was right. So this again, this is early 90s. I first met him on a 337 bus from Clapham Common to Teddington, I think, when I was going out to see, I was going down to see my girlfriend at the time, and there was a mate of mine who used to write for a comedy magazine called The Heckler. It was kind of a review magazine, and I recognised Stu Lee, and I'm kind of like, and I'd had a few, so I kind of drunkenly went up to him and went, "You're Stu Lee, aren't you?" He went, "Oh yeah." I went, "My mate thinks you're shit."
Really?
Yeah, really. And actually, we became reasonably good friends for quite a long time. But I mean, sadly, I haven't seen him. He would probably kind of point the finger at me and go, "You're fucking shit, aren't you?" or something like that, just to kind of get me back. So, yeah, that's.
Have you honed your intro kind of from that point of view?
No. And in fact, actually, so the next question is the next question we're going to ask people is, what is your most awkward moment? And that segues quite nicely into the story that I have. And this kind of gets, because it's a really crap story, but it kind of perfectly sums up my interaction with celebrity. I was in the West End one night, and I was walking down St Anne's Terrace, which is the little bit that I think cuts between Wardour Street and Greek Street, or Wardour Street and Dean Street. I always get my kind of Soho streets muddled up. And I was with my mate, and yeah, I'd had a few too many. There's a kind of recurring theme going on here. I'd had a few too many, and this little bloke with long hair walked past me, and I turned to my mate rather too loudly, and I went, "Ha! Fuck me! That looks like Fergal Sharkey, just a lot shorter and uglier."
No, it wasn't.
And my mate said, "Yeah, that was Fergal Sharkey."
No!
So actually, one of my aims from this podcast would be to get Fergal Sharkey on here, so I can apologise for being a complete twat. So yeah. Anyway, go on. Your most awkward one.
Probably awkward because of who was there, and I was a little bit starstruck. But back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a TV show called Late Lunch, and Mel and Sue used to present it. It was on Channel 4 at 6 o'clock, right? Yeah. And my mate, they had a live band, and my mate Dylan was the drummer. And they would kind of do the intro music and all the incidental music, all live. And he messaged me and he said, "Any chance you can sit in on Friday?" This was near Christmas. And I said, yeah, of course. And then I got a call from the MD and everything. He said, "Right, so basically it's an hour show. We do the title music, and then there's like another 10, you play to the adverts, you play out of the adverts, properly live, right?" So I was like, "This is amazing." And I thought, I know, I'm going to tell everybody in the world I know that I'm going to be on Channel 4, 6 o'clock Friday night, right? Excellent. So I told everybody I knew in the world, right? So we get there, and there's a script, and it basically, as I say, incidental music all over the shop. But you weren't allowed to. Where would you would usually count a band in, because it was so sharp, you weren't allowed. You had to do these drum fills. And I remember they were saying, flats in Dagenham. And I was going, flats in Dagenham. And I didn't know all these TV kind of, So flats in Dagenham is a drum fill, right? Yeah. Ant and Deck, all these kind of different, permutations. Anyway, so the show is going out at 6 o'clock. So about 5 o'clock, they said, "Oh, do you want to come and, and have you heard who's the guests are? And I said, no. And they went, it's the cast of Men Behaving Badly. And I was like, you're joking. Like, one of my favourite shows. I was like, what? All of them? They're like, yeah, all 4 of them. They're in the dressing room. They're just getting their makeup done. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like, the funniest people. And Leslie Ash, obviously, before she kind of, did what she did. So I was like instantly starstruck, thinking I'm about to play live drums on live telly to everybody I know, and I'm about to go and meet cast of Men Behaving Badly. What could possibly go wrong, right? So they said, right, so you want to go into makeup? I said, yeah, sure. So I went at the makeup. Used to love having makeup, bit of TV. So got my makeup done, had a little chat with everybody, and it's now 5:45, and they said, right, do you want to come through to the dressing room, the green room, and to meet the guests? And I said, yeah. So anyway, the door opened and there was Martin Clunes. And I was like, hi, how you doing? He was like, hi, I'm Smiley. He went, oh, nice to meet you. And Neil Morrissey and Carolyn Quinton and Leslie Ash. And I'm thinking, this is really cool. And they're sitting doing a little bit of a giggle, kind of like looking behind me. And I'm thinking, and then me and the band were standing there, and I was thinking, this is amazing, man. Hanging out with the old Men Behaving Badly. And this woman came in, she went, right, do you want to get in your costumes, guys? We've only got 10 minutes. And I went, costumes? She went, costumes? Yeah, these ones. I turned round and there were 4 elf outfits hanging up on the wall, of which we had to go into the adjacent room, put on, and I'm talking full elf, right? Hats, pointy shoes, right? Proper elf. And then had to walk back out of that room into the room with the cast of Men Behaving Badly, who royally pissed themselves, right? And then, 2 minutes to 6, I sat down behind my drums with my curly shoes, like thinking, this is really hard to play, thinking, I've told every single person I know in the world I'm going to be on telly, right? And the story goes, it went, flats in Dagenham, da, 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 it's late lunch, and the camera went round, the crowd started clapping, and the camera went round to the 4 elves playing, and every single person I knew in the world went, is he dressed as an elf? And that was him. And so proceeded to just get mocked for the whole show by Mel and Sue and all the cast of Men Behaving Badly. So, and then when I got home, received numerous texts and phone calls and learned how all my friends laughed, because they all laughed at me. They absolutely annihilated me. So.
I mean, on the plus side, I mean, there aren't many people that can say they've been royally laughed at by the entire cast of Men Behaving Badly and Mel and Sue all
at the
space
same time.
Of about 15 minutes. Yeah,
yeah, it did. It was a great leveler. Let's put it that way. It was a great. Yeah. Have you got an embarrassing clang that doesn't involve alcohol?
No.
Have you got one that does involve alcohol?
Well, no, as I say, apart from the Fergal Sharkey one, that's kind of my favourite one, really.
Were you drunk enough to call him Shergal Farkey?
No, but it has been on my stag do because I got married only less than 2 years ago.
Yeah.
After having known my now wife for 20 years before that. As I like to say, the longest test drive in history. I do have a T-shirt where there's a group of friends that I have, and they just royally take the piss out of that story. And I have a T-shirt that has fur, like a furry thing, gal as in a girl, shark, key.
Very.
It's a long run. It's not that funny. In fact, actually, it's one of those things that is probably destined to follow me around and piss me off for most of the rest of my life. And I've just opened it up to, hopefully only one other person.
Well, yeah.
But I'm going to push you on to the final question.
Which we shall be asking each celebrity.
We shall. But I know you've got a really good story about this, and I know how much you're gagging to tell people.
I don't know which one you're alluding to, Peter. Which page in this fabulous book is it?
Well, no, it's not even in the book
Oh,
because
man.
it's too up to date to be in the book.
Oh,
It's your favourite missed clang, almost clang.
oh, wow. Well, it's the current one, isn't it? It's the well.
Yeah,
I've got,
exactly.
I've got.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
we're letting people into a little sneak preview.
I've had to keep this
book number
quiet
Clang
for the
number
last.
two.
I've had to keep this quiet for the last few weeks, but
You
but
have,
actually, by the time this goes out, it's done. No, I was I was driving my car about 3 weeks ago. Do you ever get that thing where someone calls you and you don't catch who they
Oh
are?
God, yeah.
But
Because
I'm
but
such
this is a good one.
well, because I'm such a polite guy, I didn't want to go, sorry, who? So in my world, I went, hello. And he went, hi, mate, it's Jim from the Shangri-Las. Right? Now, to me, I thought, Joe from the Shangri-Las. I've heard of the Shangri-Las. I heard of them. And he went, how you doing, mate? I said, yeah, good, thanks. I'll go with this. He went, listen, cut a long story short, I've hurt my hand and we're going on tour across March. And I was wondering if you'd kind of come and like bail me out, basically. And I was like, yeah, sure. Thinking, Shangri-La's, it's got to be 60s, isn't it? I wonder what sort of tour the Shangri-La's do. Anyway, he said, right, well, brilliant. Are you free, like, next week for 6 days to do rehearsals? And then the tour starts on the 6th. And I was like, yeah. And he went, fantastic. He said, I'll speak to Sil. He said, and I'll get him to call you. I went, okay, mate, great. Take it easy. See you, Joe. All right. So I was driving around. I thought, hang on a minute.
How did you cover that one?
I did do that. So bizarrely, this is the thing. So I thought the only still I can think of is a black gospel singer who I've gigged with once.
A mutual
mate
friend
of yours. So I had messaged you, didn't I? And I said, what's Sil doing at the moment? Is she on tour? And you were like, no, she's just kind of doing a few corporate things. I was like, oh, bizarre. Who's this then? And then my phone beeped and it must have been like a time delay thing. And in my messenger, it was a message from Jim, the drummer with the Stranglers, right? And I was thinking, oh, I wonder why, for a split second, I wonder why Jim is messaging me on the same, Jim from the Stranglers is messaging me on the same day that Joe from the Shangri-Las, whose Stranglers manager is Sil Wilcox. And then did that. So anyway, cut a long story short, I did go to rehearse with the Stranglers and I had a fantastic 6 days with them. And then right at the end of the 6 days where I was ready to go and I had all the tour dates and the production manager said, so basically the score is Jim's going to start the tour, but he's got a bad hand and we're going to see how far he gets. But we need you to be on red alert for all of March, basically. Can you be like a day away? So that tour has been going now for 3 weeks, and I've sat by the phone, and they've only got another week, so I'm clearly not going to do it. But I couldn't really tell anybody because, so I've basically been David Fairclough. I've been super sub for the last 3 weeks, and I haven't really been able to tell anybody.
I was going to say, like many a good overpaid footballer, you have been paid to warm the bench.
Basically sit on my arse, yeah. So it's been hard because I was so excited to do it. Because just rehearsing with them, two things. One, amazing life lesson, and B, straight on the CV. But I loved it so much and it went so well. I just thought, I can't wait to go and play the Royal Albert Hall, and I can't wait to go and play in Dublin, and I've been watching them on Instagram, putting pictures up, and I haven't done it. So there you go, folks. The bridesmaid of music. There's another good story like that, actually, quickly, where I was in the Who for 5 minutes once.
Yeah, I remember that. That one is in the book.
Yeah, it is in the book. Yeah, that one is in the book. I'll drop that one in at a later date, I think. But that's a good story.
Yeah.
So there's one more question, isn't there? And isn't that the most starstruck you've been? Was that your question?
Yeah, that is the
Of
most
one
starstruck
person.
you've been.
Who made you the most
Yeah.
starstruck? Go on then.
Yeah,
Go on then.
yeah. Well, no, I don't. I genuinely can't think of anyone that made me really starstruck.
Do you want one of
I
mine?
genuinely can't.
Do you want one of
No,
mine?
but what I can tell you is there was the day I almost met David Bowie, which was kind of like
Hang on a minute.
just
Hang on a minute. That beats my strangler story. How dare you? How did you nearly meet David Bowie?
So I used to work. I don't know if you remember. I used to work in a record shop in London, which is just behind the Virgin Megastore in Hanway Street. It was like a little collector's shop called Vinyl Experience, and I worked there for I don't know a couple of years or something. Just kind of while I was messing around in bands and not going anywhere. And there was one day I was like, oh no, I can't. I need to take tomorrow off. Can't come in.
Oh,
so they got me cover.
no.
I come in. So I think that was like the Wednesday that I couldn't come in. So I come in on the Thursday, and my mate Richard comes up to me. He goes like, "Fucking hell, you'll never guess who was in the shop yesterday." And it was like, and he said, "Yeah." So we had what was so it gets quite a funny story because it's like. He said he was stood at the counter serving people because it was like over 3 floors. The first floor was all kind of old LPs and stuff. The second floor was collectible stuff. So it was all kind of signed Jimi Hendrix set lists and Madonna's version of Penthouse and stuff like that. So it was kind of like and a shitload of Bowie stuff.
Wow.
And anyway, my mate's standing there serving someone, looks over his shoulder and sees this very tall black lady who's sort of standing behind this guy and going, "Can I?" She points, "Can I go upstairs?" Looks round. Of course, it's Bowie stood next to her, and so he wasn't quite sure what to do with himself, understandably in the circumstances, and said, "Yeah, upstairs." So apparently, Bowie proceeds to go upstairs and go through the collectible Bowie CDs. Going fake.
No, really?
That one's real. Fake. Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. Bootleg
On your day off.
It's very funny. On my day off. Yeah. So I was slightly pissed off about that, but yeah.
Oh, that's tenuous enough to be a clang. I like that.
Well, yeah, I think so. I like to think that one is,
We'll get plenty of tenuous stuff with these guests, I tell you.
We do.
Yeah.
We will.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so that's basically the premise. That's where we're going.
All
I think down to you to wrap up the opening episode of Clang, really.
Okay. Well, I think it's important that we remember what we can and can't do. I think there's probably certain things that we could mention that if anybody out there has got anything important, any bands have got any specific big things coming up, it's not like we're going to sit here and ask for, if you send us a T-shirt, we'll name your band and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be cheap and a bit sad. So really, if it's,
I thought that was your idea.
It's getting quite warm in it.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we don't want anything like that cheap. And if you give us a T-shirt, we'll just advertise your band. We don't want any of that nonsense.
No, that's certainly not bands that have just been in your studio.
Exactly.
Recording.
Anyway, no, I think we're going to have some fun. If people would like to send in their own clangs that we can actually read out, that would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Where could they send it into, Pete?
There'll be
an email link, but if you'd like to send us in your clangs, that would be amazing.
Yeah. And also requests for I think challenges.
Oh, for
well.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, Smiley, have you met?
My answer will probably be no, but I know a man who has.
Well, yeah, like for example, have you met Brian Blessed?
No, but my twin brothers own 2 pet shops. And Brian Blessed, this is a true story, right? Brian Blessed goes into the pet shops, right, and says, "Morning, loves. Shall I do it?" And they go, "Go on then, Brian." And he goes, "Gordon's alive!" True story. So, there you go. Didn't think you'd get a Brian Blessed story out of me, did you? So,
I didn't. I just randomly picked Brian Blessed.
As you can see,
but it
folks,
does.
Tenuous is good. It's like the 7 degrees of separation, the 7 degrees of celebrity bullshit stories.
Yes. But it does remind me briefly of a sort of chance meeting I had while standing outside a publishing company I was working for, having a cigarette with Simon Callow.
Oh,
he was what a lovely man.
isn't that a lovely end to the story?
It is.
I did it. My
is.
other famous, not famous one, but favourite one was where I went to do a radio show, Alan Thompson, funny enough, and I waited in the waiting room. And remember Simon Day from the Fast Show?
Of course.
Well, there were like 8 seats one side and 8 seats the other, and I sat in the middle on one side. And he came in, and he sat down, and I said, "Someone's sitting there, mate." And he wet himself. And and I'd like to say we've been friends since, but we never met again. But I thought that was a very good plan. So there you go, folks. This is what you're going to get every week. Stories from celebrity guests that will be next time will be a very memorable TV presenter from your youth who you are going to
I would say a top TV presenter.
Oh, top. How we got him, I don't know. But let's just say that'll be pretty special, I think. So till next time, everybody, it's goodbye from him. See you, Clang.
And it's goodbye from me.
See you, Clangers.
Clang.
Hurry up and get to page 56.
The podcast.